Hi, my name is Feroz, and I'm the head of the SAP Academy for Engineering. My first question is, if you were to give a piece of advice to a young engineers, what would that be?
First of all, thank you for having me. And I feel so stimulated by this opportunity to be with these incredibly bright and driven and yet very thoughtful talent that you have put together here. So thank you for that. You were sharing with me the story about how Nipun, when he came, he mentioned that one of his life lessons has been that he thought it was all about 90% effort and only 10% relationships. But that it actually turned out that over time he's grown to learn that it's 90% relationships and 10% effort. So that is just such a brilliant insight unto itself. If I were to add one little additional perhaps offering for our brilliant young minds here who are part of this program, I would say that if you take his idea to heart, then the question arises, which are the most important relationships for you? And in fact, which is the most important relationship? And so my offering to this group would be, realize that the most important relationship in your life is with your own self. Are you in fact your best friend? Do you really tune in to the stirring of your own inner voice? Do you give it that space? Do you create that clarity, from within of your intention and your purpose? Are you nurturing it? Are you letting it challenge you? Are you letting it from time to time push you into the right new directions that you need to take? Or is it getting somewhat just, confused in the noise of all the things that happen inside and outside? And so, yes, go on the Nipun-esque journey, but in doing that, also recognize that the greatest relationship to build is before you, engage in the effort on the outside, is what you nurture on the inside.
My second question to you is, you've had such an amazing journey, but if you have to look back at your younger self and given yourself a piece of advice, what would that be?
So many, not just one. One does, if one takes on a reflective path, I think learns so much through life, isn't it? For me, I think the most transformational learning over these last few decades has been that in the past, I was operating on two parallel tracks. There was an inner conversation I was having with me. I was discovering my true self, my values, my ideas, my aspirations. And then there was this outer kind of work that I was doing based on the structures and systems that society and the world was giving me. What are the coolest, universities to be sort of, kind of enrolled in? What are the best kind of careers and jobs to engage in? How much do I need financially, etc. And I was just seeing these two things as separate and not really reconcilable. And I think what for me has been the greatest growth in the last several decades is actually that is a incomplete life. And that what life is in fact inviting us is to really bring harmony and fusion to this inner and the outer. And to recognize that if you really strive to connect with your true yearnings, your true purpose, your true values, and the universal laws of what makes us flourish, as human beings, and you work on yourself on that from the inside, you will start to gain insight and awareness for how to also harmonize with the world around you, make the right choices in terms of how to, within your career, bring more of that natural, authentic expression of your values and your feelings, into a format that actually brings people along with you and makes you have even more increased impact and, in a sense, chance at success on the outside than if you were really keeping these two separate or stifling the inner. So bringing the inner and outer together, recognizing that there is an integrative approach to having success in both life and work.
We live at a time of great speed, a lot of anxiety, a lot of changes. What keeps you hopeful?
When we think about all this increasing speed, let's think of it as a potter's wheel, right? And if you look at that wheel, yes, on the outer edge, there is incredible speed. And then you get closer and closer to the center. And at the very center, it is not even in motion. It is completely still. And I remember, Ramanujan once said, this incredible mathematician from India, he said that to me, the number 0 represents like the essence of spirit, and the number infinity represents its infinite outer manifestations. And so I think that, there is power in paradox, in being able to, engage and harmonize with two opposing truths. Is it possible that the more the world is speeding up, the more there is the opportunity for us to thrive and flourish by also becoming still, by also slowing down? What is that inner core? What is that eternal and changeless part of me and you as individuals, of us as a collective nation and society and world and humanity, perhaps even the universe? Going on a path of that discovery and getting connected with that core, perhaps there's never been a greater hunger and a need for that. And also, there's probably not been, such an informed science and such a practical set of technologies through which to awaken and develop and cultivate that. So in some ways, I get very excited by this change, because I think it is pushing us to ask ourselves what some of those unchangeable, eternal core parts of us are, and we're also getting the science and technology through which to actually really work to pursuing and developing those.